Hey guys, SGT here, and I think the call that I'm on right now with this special person is probably one of the more frightening calls I've ever done in the information. Is shocking. I want to welcome Michele Thomas, a professional photographer and digital technician. Michele, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Sean.
Guys, what you're about to hear is not fiction. It happened, and it's happening again in many ways to Ron Paul and his supporters. Michele, you were interviewed by WorldNet Daily's Jon Corzine back in April about these issues, and I'm going to post that video interview below so people can watch it. Now, Michele, the information you shared in that interview with Corzine about how the 2008 presidential election was literally stolen by the Democratic Party and handed to Barack Obama is shocking. And in many ways, Michele, it reminds me of the downright dirty and sometimes illegal tactics the GOP has used against Ron Paul and his supporters and delegates. Now, the point of this interview, folks, is to clearly illustrate for you that both the right and the left are subservient to the puppet masters who run this nation, and that people from both parties and all walks of life are now beginning to realize it. Why don't you tell people just a little bit about yourself before we get rolling here?
Okay, thanks, Sean, for having me on. I really do appreciate it. Basically, I was a volunteer in the Hillary Clinton campaign in 2008 primaries. And when I volunteered, it was merely because I had watched all the debates from the summer of 2007, and I knew we were in a housing bubble, and I was trying to see if any of the candidates from the left and the right were addressing it. And the only person that was addressing the fraud of the housing bubble was Hillary Clinton. So that is why I, chose her to be my candidate. At that time, I had not volunteered, but once she started speaking of this fraud in the housing by the bankers and the predatory lending and all those sorts of things, I noticed the media shifting to Obama as their candidate and really propelling him forward, which shocked me. And this is about October 2007, because in the summer, Obama was an absolutely horrific debater. He, in fact, did not know what the capital gains tax was. I mean, it was astonishing. It was like I was wondering how this guy got on the stage. I mean, he was absolutely horrific. I mean, he got better as they went along, but the media started really propelling him like he was this Messiah-like candidate, and and then they started smearing Hillary. And then I also noticed that the money of the campaign raising started flooding towards Obama. And Hillary had about $100 million raised at that time. After that, she really didn't get much money from lobbyists or corporations or anything like that. It was mainly just people like me donating money to her. So that was where my red flag kind of went up, and I really decided to be a volunteer. Okay, so I started making calls for Hillary Clinton. I was going down to her campaign headquarters in Los Angeles, and I was calling the states. And this was before the primary even began. The first caucus was Iowa, in I think the first week of January 2008. And Obama won Iowa. And it was noted in many Hillary Clinton blogs that he had stole the caucuses and that he had bussed in people from Chicago, which is Illinois is very close to Iowa, and he'd bussed in like 500 buses of people and had basically gone into the caucuses, overwhelmed them. They were not used to this level of people showing up. Many of the people knew that these people were not from their counties, not from their neighborhoods or anything like that. They were stealing the caucus packets, stuffing them with Obama votes, throwing away Hillary votes, locking people out of the caucuses. It was like ruthless. And people had never seen anything like it.
And the Clintons tried to expose that fraud. Isn't that true, Michele?
They tried to expose it numerous times. They made at least 5 or 6 press releases regarding the fraud that occurred in the caucuses. That was where it was blatant and obvious. It also occurred in the primaries as well, but not as much as in the caucuses.
But let me ask you, but the point is that the media helped cover up this fraud, right?
The media was involved in this scam from the very beginning, because right after Obama won Iowa, the media went on a full-on level of trying to intimidate Hillary out of the race. It was only the first state that had their primary or caucus, and they were just saying that she's a loser and she needs to leave the race now and how embarrassing, and she just needs to let Obama win now. And it was like that from then on out. And the next state was New Hampshire, which she pulled off because it was a primary, and even though there was a lot of fraud in it, it's harder to pull off fraud in a primary than it is a caucus. And another thing to note is that Howard Dean was the head of the DNC at the time, and this whole year before, he was reallocating delegates to, states. And the one thing that he did to benefit Obama was he allocated way more delegates to caucus states than there was before. And he also allocated more delegates to African-American cities that had, large populations of African-Americans, like Dallas or Houston, Philadelphia. Counties like that were allocated twice as many delegates as another county.
Okay. Well, let me ask. So at this point, you're a Hillary Clinton supporter. You're very naive. You've told me that you weren't awake at this point. All of this was very surprising. And now let's fast forward to June. The Democratic Party and the media declared Obama the winner of the nomination when, in fact, he didn't have enough delegates to win the nomination, and the Hillary people knew that, right?
Yes, it's the required number of delegates to win the nomination was 2,118, and neither Hillary nor Obama had enough delegates to win the nomination. And another key thing about June is that Howard Dean would not count the votes in Michigan or Florida, the whole entire primary, because he said that they moved their dates forward, and so he penalized them. But the reason why he didn't count those is because Hillary won Florida and Michigan by a lot. And in fact, in Michigan, Obama removed his name from the ballot because he wanted to rig the election and not have it count, because he was only polling at 18% in Michigan at the time. And Howard Dean awarded Obama 69 delegates in Michigan. Now, if he didn't have the 69 delegates in Michigan, which he shouldn't have had because he wasn't even on the ballot in Michigan, Hillary would have been ahead of him. So what happened in June is the media and Howard Dean declared Obama the winner of the nomination when he didn't have enough delegates to win the nomination at all. In fact, the superdelegates, which I know is not part of the Republicans don't have superdelegates, but the superdelegates don't even vote until the convention. So the fact that they declared him the winner was a total fraud.
Let me ask you this. I know that you're awake now. This all happened before the October 2008 economic collapse. Jon Corzine declared New Jersey unanimous for Obama when Hillary won it by 10%. And why don't you tell people what you think that means? I mean, why would Jon Corzine do that?
Because this is what I believe now in hindsight. When I was in it, I was banging my head against the wall because I could not comprehend the level of fraud that was going on and the media playing along with the fraud. And it was absolutely shocking in every single way. And in hindsight now that I look back at what happened in October 2008, the financial system completely crashed. And they wouldn't have survived without a bailout. And we know now that massive fraud occurred in the financial system to have that crash occur. And so I believe that the elite needed to have their candidate as the nominee to become president, Obama, so that he could cover up the crime. Because we know there's a statute of limitation in which they can prosecute these crimes is 5 years. So they needed to have their minion in there to cover up the crimes of the banking system and to continue the bailout, which he did. I mean, in fact, Obama's been more friendly to the banking system than any president in our history. Catherine Austin Fitts claims that it's $27 trillion that he gave them through the bailout, the back-end bailouts, the front-end bailouts, things of that nature. And Obama is a very, very compromised person on many levels. I mean, you know, the birth certificate, the crimes he committed in Chicago, the whole Resco scandal.
The Social Security number. The Social Security
numbers. He's extremely blackmailed. And if you look back at his donations from the 2008 primaries, his biggest donators were the banks.
That's right. But you know what? I'm sorry, let me interrupt. You know what's funny about that? Guess who gets the most bank donations this time? Romney.
Mitt Romney. Yeah, so I'm assuming he's their chosen person, but even if Obama stays in there, he's not going to do anything different than he's been doing now.
That's
because
right.
They took down Rod Blagojevich in Chicago in one day. And people think it's about selling the Senate seat, but if you look at the indictment, it's actually about Tony Resco. Tony Resco and Obama and Blagojevich were Tony Resco's two people that he helped bring up for 20 years. Tony Resco's now in jail for like 25 years. I mean, if Obama did not become president, I have no doubt in my mind right now he would be in jail just like Blagojevich. So he needed to become president. So he basically got immunity, you know, with his Justice Department, Eric Holder. Eric Holder is like blocking all of the investigation from occurring.
That's right.
Obama.
That's right. And getting back to Jon Corzine, the former head of MF Global, you wrote to me, so if you're wondering why Corzine will never be arrested under Obama, there's your answer. I mean, he helped Obama get into office.
Well, yes, because what happened is, I mean, I never spoke about what my effort was in the 2008 primary. So basically, in June, Howard Dean went on TV. He declared Obama the winner of the nomination when he didn't have enough delegates to win. The media went along with this and so forth. And then he declared that he was not going to put Hillary Clinton's name into nomination at the convention so that the delegates could vote. And you can't vote as a delegate unless the candidate's name is placed into nomination. That is when I could not believe that they were doing that. And I actually took months off of work and led an effort to force her name into nomination. And so basically what we learned in the DNC rules was that if you got 300 delegates to sign a petition, you could force a candidate's name into nomination. And so that's what I did. I got volunteers all across the states to help me call delegates, and we explained to them that we need to do this to take a stand because the entire nomination process has been completely eviscerated by the Obama campaign and by the DNC leadership. And if we do not take a stand now, then the whole process will be obliterated from now on. Because basically, you know, we pay millions of dollars to have primaries in the states with our tax dollars, and we vote for candidates. And then delegates are run to become the delegate, and then they go to the convention and they represent the vote of the people. Well, all of a sudden, you know, Howard Dean just declares that the delegates are not going to vote. So we called these delegates. We got 398 delegates sign the petition. So we basically forced the floor vote to occur. And so what happened is on the day of the roll call, which was completely rigged, Jon Corzine gets up when they go to New Jersey. He declares New Jersey unanimous for Obama when Hillary won that state by 10%. And when you win a state like New Jersey by 10%, that's like 1 million votes. New Jersey is a very large state. So he basically just like threw away the entire primary election that the taxpayers paid for and declared it unanimous for Obama. So Obama owes Jon Corzine big time. Big time.
I think we need to bridge now, Michele, over to the parallels that we see happening and that have been happening with the GOP and their strong-arm tactics against Ron Paul supporters and delegates. Again, if this is a process in this country that is supposed to be of, by, and for the people, we don't see that anymore. You didn't see it in 2008. For those of us who care about liberty, we're not seeing it now with Ron Paul. And I want to just talk a little bit about what you think the parallels are as we see delegates getting ready to go down to Tampa in August.
like the overall umbrella of what I'm trying to describe to you is, okay, we're witnessing massive financial fraud in the financial industry. And what I would call this is party fraud on both sides. I mean, when I'm witnessing in the Ron Paul, because I was for Ron Paul this year. I voted for him in June at the California primary, and I've been following the election very closely. And when I'm witnessing, it just makes me laugh because it's the same exact thing. It does not matter what the people vote for. It doesn't matter to the party leadership because they can rig the process every single step of the way. They can rig it from reallocating delegates before the votes ever take place. They can rig it by holding states back that matter to the candidate they don't want. They can rig it by stealing delegates from the candidate they were awarded to. And in fact, my friend, who was also a Hillary supporter, now a Ron Paul supporter, he became a delegate in Massachusetts. He ran fairly. He campaigned. They organized for about 5 months. He made his speech. He got, people to come to the caucus. He became a delegate fair and square. Well, he was knocked off by the party leadership in Massachusetts. And then they just reappointed delegates to Romney, who they wanted, because they weren't sure how they were going to vote for in the primary. And so the big point that I learned from 2008 is this. I didn't know this. The Democratic Party, the Republican Party, are private organizations. Okay, they have rules, but the rules really are just company policy. That's all it is. And a company can change its policy at any time, and you can't sue them for it because we were actually going to sue the Democratic Party for all the fraud, and we had lawyers looking at it and everything like that. And what we learned is you can't really sue them, because they can change their rules at any moment. And and they consider it a company policy.
One thing that we should actually circle back and cover, Michele, and you must be aware of this now, is that at the time when clearly there came a point where Hillary stood down and supported the nomination of Obama. You must be aware that Obama had left the press corps on one of his campaign planes. They got on, they boarded, he was supposed to get on. He didn't. The plane took off with the press corps without him, and they were furious. And for that entire day, he was missing and would never say where he went. Well, where he went was Chantilly, Virginia, with Hillary to the Bilderberg Group meeting, where the Bilderbergers blessed Obama and said, Hillary, you're not going to be the one this time. She becomes Secretary of State. Fast forward now to today, and I think it's highly likely that Obama may announce that, she might be the new VP in his second run for office. What's your take on all of that?
I've read that many times that they're going to put her on as VP. I don't see that. I mean, the Clintons don't like the Obamas. I know that for a fact. I was with her brothers in Scranton, Pennsylvania when I was campaigning. It's no. I mean, all of this stuff like them campaign. If you really look at Bill Clinton, he's campaigning against Obama.
Okay. He's
sabotaging him.
Well, then these are mafia families at war here. Okay, so what we've described here, what you've been describing is really mafia-like behavior, and I know you feel that way as it pertains to the Obama campaign.
Hey guys, thanks for watching Part 1. Stay tuned for Part 2, in which Michele explains that the Obama campaign in 2008 was a coup of the Democratic Party. Thanks for watching.